Hello and welcome to the penultimate team review for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. We have completed 30. We are on 31 of 32. Liam, it's Portugal. How you doing?
Glad to still be here. We've almost made it. The end is in sight.
I feel like we know each other well enough now. Over 10 hours of football chat between us, on top
Hmm.
of our previous interactions with Axom and previously with Celtic Down Under. I'm going to be honest. You've worn a number of shirts. That is my
hmm
least favourite.
it's a very Marmite shirt. This one, people either love it or they hate it. Funnily enough, there's a bit of a story behind how I came to own this.
Excellent. So just before
I
you do
was
that, is that Russia 2018, that one?
uh, might be, yeah. It's either Russia 18 or Euro 2020. I'm not sure which. I
Right,
think it might be Russia 2018.
right.
Um,
Back on.
But yeah, basically one night I was watching some random football and talking to my dad on the iPad as I'm want to do,
Excellent.
and had a few beers, and he was like, "Oh son, I saw this great top I've got to show you the other day," and I was like, "Right, okay," and I had a look at it, and it was like, "Oh, it's a Portugal shirt," and I
Yeah.
thought that looks a bit, I don't know. And he's like, "No, no, that's a good one, that's a good one." And I was like, "Oh, all right, fine." I'd had a few drinks, so I ordered it. And when it arrived, I was like, "Oh dear, um, might have jumped a boat, jumped a wee bit too quickly with this one." But
Yeah.
it's here now. I'm wearing it, so here we go.
I should never have doubted you. You were right. That is Euro 2021. That is not Russia 2018. So there you go.
Mm,
But listen, that's the joy of shirt collecting. You never know what you're going to end up with and why you're going to end up with it, and it's the stories behind it that make the difference as much as the shirt themselves. I'm actually thinking of I've found online a subscription service where you can sign up for a particular nominal fee a month and they will send you a random football shirt from any league in the world, and you don't know what you're getting until it gets there.
I see. There's always a danger you would get Rangers or Lazio, so I'm like, I don't know about
Well,
that.
you can specify clubs that you don't want.
All right. Well, that's
So,
interesting, actually.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I
hmm
yeah. I mean, there's a bit of me that don't tell anybody. There's a bit of me that would quite delight in having a Brian Laudrup shirt, but it is my guilty pleasure. I have to
I
say.
I have got two Michael Laudrup shirts, so I'm not going to dispute that. No, that's
Excellent. I
yeah.
do remember my brother, when we were much younger, refusing to buy a Real Madrid shirt that had Laudrup on the back because he couldn't conceive of the fact that there was two people called Laudrup playing.
Uh,
But the less said about that, the better. Let's get back to talking about Portugal. Obviously, not exactly the blow away start to this World Cup that everybody was expecting. It took a Ronaldo
mm.
penalty as well as a couple of other goals for them to eke out a 3-2 win over Ghana. What did you make of their performance? Are you on the side of, well, they've obviously got the firepower to score three goals, or are you more concerned about their defence? Where do you sit?
To be honest, I think it's mostly down to the fact that Ghana were much better than people expected them to be,
Yeah.
Portugal included. Um, I think they made the classic Eurocentric mistake of underestimating an African team, and they very nearly got their backsides handed to them as a result. Um,
Absolutely. And you know, it could happen again, but we shall see.
mm,
One of the things I wanted to bring up, just to make a point that I think is worth making, is the history of Portugal at the World Cup. Now, I personally think of Portugal as one of the footballing superpowers, but the record wouldn't suggest that. They had a third place finish in 1966. I believe that would have been around the time Eusebio was playing.
yes, yeah.
Um, then didn't qualify between 1970 and 1982, a singular group stage exit at Mexico in 86. So only two World Cup finals appearances before 2002, which absolutely blew my mind, to be honest, because growing up in the 90s, you know, think of the players that were Portugal players at that time: Rui Costa, a young Luis Figo, Fernando Couto, Vitor Baia. You know, lots and lots of fantastic players. But it wasn't until 2002 that they became a regular fixture in the in the World Cup final stages, but even then, only a 4th place finish in Germany in 2006. And apart from that, they've really been kind of also rans. Are you surprised looking at that record to see how relatively poor it's been, considering the threat that people feel like they pose at World Cups?
Well, the thing is, when I think back on it, I don't remember them being at that many Euro championships when I was a kid either. They were definitely not at Euro 88 or Euro 92. I don't think they were at Euro 96.
Let me just see if I can pull that up while you're talking.
They were at Euro 2000 because they beat England 3-2 after being 2-0 down. That was a great game.
Yeah.
But they're not that great at European Championship level until recent times either.
Yeah, I think it's difficult with these teams because, and one other point I wanted to make was, how much of that last run do you think is down to having a player of Ronaldo's quality? Is too much of their recent success, including obviously that Euro 2016 win, is too much of that put down to Ronaldo? Do you think, or has there been a general increase in the quality of Portuguese football over the last 20 or 30 years?
Look, Ronaldo is arguably the best player of his generation. So he's obviously going to have an impact whoever he plays for. But I think that the Euros now, with having as many teams as it does now, it used to, back in the 90s, it was only 8 teams, believe it or not. The first time Scotland qualified for the Euros, there was only 8 teams in it. But these days, to win a tournament like that, you can't be a one-man team. You've got to have a good unit. And yes, Ronaldo was undoubtedly the star man. Yes, he is probably the most naturally gifted player Portugal's ever produced, apart from, in my opinion, Eusebio.
Yeah.
But I think that there's more to it than just Ronaldo. And to give him his due, Ronaldo himself has frequently said that as well. He is not Portugal. Portugal is a team. So
yeah, absolutely. So just for clarity, this is their record at the European Championships. 1 appearance in 1984, solitary appearance before finally becoming regular appearers at the finals of the European Championships from 1996 onwards.
Right.
Obviously, remember a certain George Cadet playing in that 96 squad, if I remember rightly. Reached the semi-finals at Belgium and Netherlands in 2000. Reached runners-up status on their own soil in 2004. Quarterfinals in Austria and Switzerland in 2008, semi-finals again in Poland and Ukraine, and then champions in 2016. A disappointing round of 16 and exit in 2021. But I wonder what it is about the European Championships that suits them better. Perhaps the caliber of teams they're up against or the size of the tournament. I don't know.
I think it's predictability because they've got a good idea of who they're playing against. Whereas when they go up against a Ghana or a South Korea, it's going to be players they're unfamiliar with.
Yeah. You would think, you would like to think that they do a bit more research than that, but the evidence doesn't suggest so.
Well, I'm sure the coaching staff do, but the players probably don't.
Probably not.
That's the issue.
We'll go ahead and look at the squad for Portugal. So looking at the goalkeepers, I've got to say, I mean, Rui Patricio is probably going to be the first pick for Portugal between the six. But I always think of the Portugal keeper being a relatively high-profile player, and I wouldn't say in this case that's held true. Am I being unfair there, considering he does play for Roma?
I mean, to be a bit hard. Now, don't get me wrong, he was a superb goalkeeper, but how much of Vitor Baia's presence was down to his personality rather than his goalkeeping ability?
True.
And that's the guy you think of when you think Portuguese goalkeepers, So I think it's more a case of him leaving such a huge impression that any keeper that comes after him is going to be seen as a bit of a minnow,
Yeah. No, I think that's fair, and that's probably a good place to leave it as far as the goalkeeper chat goes. Looking at the defence, I mean, probably about as star-studded a defence as you'll come across in the entire tournament. You've got Antonio Silva. I hate to bang on about it, but another darling of Football Manager. He's a bit of a wonder kid in this year's game. So people will be looking out to see if he makes an appearance. You've got Pepe, obviously, playing in what will probably be his last World Cup. Ruben Diaz and João Cancelo of Manchester City. Nobody needs reminded of their quality. Neither do they need reminded of Nuno Mendes' quality. Diogo Dalot of Manchester United has played himself into this squad thanks to being one of the only standout players during Eric Ten Hag's reign at Manchester United. Rafael Guerreiro, I'm a huge fan of as a follower of Dortmund. I think he's been a fantastic addition to them and certainly one of the most dangerous fullbacks in the game. And Danilo Pereira of Paris Saint-Germain, again, playing at the highest level. So, really, when you look at that, one of the strongest defensive lineups in any squad in the World Cup, you would have to say.
Yeah, especially for a team that historically are not noted for being particularly strong defensively. We always think about their midfield and their attack more than we do their defence, but no, that is a very, very formidable backline there.
Probably shocks you then to see that they did concede 2 goals against Ghana, and probably says a lot about Ghana, as we'll cover in the next game, and the threat they could pose to other teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As I say, I think last night's result was more down to Ghana exceeding expectations than Portugal falling below expectations.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair to say. Moving on to the midfield, the star-studded nature of it doesn't stop there. We've got Vitinha of PSG, we've got William Carvalho of Real Betis, Bernardo Silva of Manchester City, João Mario of Benfica, Bruno Fernandes of Manchester United, Ruben Neves and João Palhinha, and Matheus Nunes, that little Portuguese enclave just in the English Midlands, and then Otavio of Porto. The one thing that's standing out to me is there's plenty of goals in that midfield.
Haven't seen that many Wolves in one place since Game of Thrones ended. It's a good lineup, and it's funny because Wolves are kind of doing with Portugal what Celtic are doing with Japan, in the sense that they're just plucking the best young players from there and putting together a very good unit.
Listen, if success continues the way it has, bring us more Japanese players, because I, for one, will... I had a little bit of a cry last night, actually, because I was opening stickers for the Panini sticker album with my nephew, and we got Kyogo out of the latest pack to go in our Japan squad.
It's a wee shame.
And he said, "Oh, Kyogo," and he's got Japan in the sweepstake as well. I was saying, "Oh, but he's not at the World Cup." It's oh, okay. I have to say it was a sad moment, but we stuck him in and said, "You're in our squad. Don't worry about it."
And he will play a role for Japan in the years to come, I'm sure. So don't worry about that.
I'm sure. Let's move ahead to the strikers for Portugal. We've got Cristiano Ronaldo. Says Manchester United there, obviously, since this article was written. His contract with the club has been mutually terminated off the back of, well, basically that's what happens when you speak to Piers Morgan. João Felix of Atletico Madrid, nobody knows reminded of his quality, absolutely one of the best talents to come out of Portugal in the last 20 years. Rafael Leao of AC Milan, Ricardo Horta of Braga, Gonçalo Ramos of Benfica, and Andre Silva of RB Leipzig. I would say probably Cristiano Ronaldo and João Felix are the two most high profile and most likely to play up top, but I would give a mention to Andre Silva after what we've seen of him for RB Leipzig as well.
Yeah, I'm probably going to say something a bit harsh about Ronaldo here, and it's not just because he spoke to the the journalistic equivalent of syphilis that is Piers Morgan, but if he was any other player on his current form, in his current situation, he would get nowhere near a World Cup squad.
Yeah.
So I think that now, fair enough, he scored last night, but I do think Ronaldo is there at the moment largely on past reputation rather than current performance. So although people say he's one of the all-time greats, whatever, in my mind, in this World Cup, in this Portugal squad, he has got a lot to prove.
Yeah, I would say so. The thing that I can't stand about him, I can't stand it, is the way he shouts from the bench for Portugal when he's on the bench. Leave that to the manager.
No.
I hated it. And do you know the reason I really hate it? is because I don't think it's him doing what he wants to do for the good of the team. It's purely to feel involved, so that when they do have success, like they did at Euro 2016, he can say, "Well, I wasn't on the pitch, but I did this." You know.
Aye, it's like with top level sportsmen, and it's not just football, but top level sportsmen in general. There is a fine line between brilliance, genius, and arrogance. And when Ronaldo does some of the things that he does on the pitch, it's definitely on the side of genius. But when he does things like that from the sidelines, which is clearly not, that's him clearly going above his station. That is arrogance, and that's destructive. You know, and the thing is, I always remember something that my dad used to say about when we used to watch boxing every Saturday night back in the 90s. Chris Eubank went something like 35 fights unbeaten, and it was one of them. I hated him because I was just wanting somebody to knock him down, but he kept winning, and you know the funny thing is now looking back on it, he's one of my favourite boxers of all time because the guy was just incredible. And my dad said,
there's a lot of people say that about Stephen Hendry in snooker. Not a very likeable guy when he was a player, but looking back on him, an admirable player in terms of his sheer determination and his will to win.
Exactly. And as my dad said about Eubank, it's only arrogance if you lose. The problem is, in recent years, Ronaldo has started losing.
Yeah.
So,
not just football matches, his mind, if anything.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The more he acts a big shot without the skills to back it up, the more it looks like arrogance and less like ability, which is a shame because he's in danger of tarnishing his legacy. If he doesn't get his act together.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. There is a possibility, if the groups work out the way that they might, that it could be a Portugal-Argentina final. It could be a face-off between Messi and Ronaldo. Now, I will be looking out whatever Argentina shirt I can find in that instance. But my goodness, what a mouth-watering prospect that would be.
Aye. On the other hand, it could be Saudi Arabia and South Korea the way things are going at this World Cup. So
who knows? I see. I'm now also rooting for Japan because even if Kyogo's not there, if Maeda's there, and given the Japanese contingent that we've got at Celtic Park, it would be wrong of me not to say that we want them to do well as well. So, yeah. I don't know what the Japanese version of "Come on Japan" is. It's not "Vamos Japan," but yeah.
Gambare Nippon.
Excellent, Gambare Nippon. I love that. Right. Anyway, back to Portugal just to close out the conversation. We've obviously seen that they've had that win over Ghana. You can say what you want about the quality of it, but a win is a win, especially at a World Cup. Where do you see them getting in the group? Can they qualify, considering they've got a very, very tricky tie against Uruguay, followed by an equally tricky tie, some might say, against Korea to close out the group? Are they going to make it out of this group?
I think they'll make it out of the group. I'm not sure if they'll win the group, but I think they will make it out of the group. But this is, as we talked about previously, probably the most open group in the tournament, because for me, any team could win it and any team could finish bottom.
Yeah,
it really is that open. Because Ghana showed enough last night to suggest they're going to give Korea and Uruguay a game, and by the same token, Portugal look as if they could be got at by a team that does their homework properly. So, yeah, that Uruguay-Portugal game is going to be fascinating, and if Korea can get a result against Ghana, going that last game against Portugal with a chance of getting through, that is going to be a magnificent round off to that group.
Absolutely, it will be. Let's say they do get out of the group, Portugal. Where does their World Cup dream end for you?
Quarterfinals.
Pretty standard fare for Portugal, I would say, but I don't think they would be unhappy with it.
Unless they come second in the group, in which chance they could get bumped in round two.
Yes.
But we'll see.
We'll see. We shall see. Thank you very much for joining me for this one, Liam. We have one more team to go in this World Cup, at which point we will do a review of Group H as a whole, and a little bit about your thoughts about how the World Cup's gone so far now that we've had the first round of matches as well. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you everybody for watching. Please don't forget to look at the playlist that we've got of all the World Cup previews. We're not entirely sure how the coverage is going to, what shape it's going to take for the rest of the World Cup, but rest assured there will be some more videos between now and the final anyway. Liam, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time for one more video.
See you then. Thank you.